Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chop It Up podcast. It's been a while, but we're here. And, start off every podcast saying if you don't follow us already, follow us on at the.chopitupod to keep up with all of our videos, all of our content, and all of our podcast episodes. Okay? Today is a special episode because this episode is a part of our Afrimerican Academy Boston Red Line 87 Black History Month event. And this year, the theme is development without displacement. And today we have a wonderful guest, Miss Jessica Paulino. And let me tell you something about her, okay? She is passionate about helping others and creating spaces for both your grief and joy. She is a mother, full spectrum doula, yoga, sound healer, facilitator, and an advocate for maternal and migrant rights. I know that's right. And she's the daughter of Dominican immigrants raised between Boston and the Dominican Republic. She is also a part of the Hyde Park Health and Wellness Steering Committee, which is a committee that is inclusive and representative in a group of community stakeholders, working to establish a dedicated community health center in Hyde Park to provide equitable, preventative, and medical services and wellness resources to all Hyde Park residents. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Everyone, please give it up for Miss Jessica Paulino.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, how's everyone doing today? Let's do a little check before we get into everything.
I'm
I'm
feeling well.
That's good. That's good. That's good. It's getting a little warmer outside.
yeah. But
Mhm.
also I am Dominican too. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I wanted to
Hey.
yeah, and I just wanted to ask, like what part of the Dominican Republic you are from?
Of course. So I was raised in Santo Domingo, but my mom is from Santo Domingo and my dad is from La Vega, from El Cibao.
Oh my God.
What
That's
about you?
um so my parents lived in Santo Domingo. But my mom was she was born in Asua, and
Mhm.
then my dad was born in Roquillo.
Awesome. Wow. Well, I love seeing Dominicans who are in community who are also representing our Afro-Indigenous side. So I really appreciate that
Right.
you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the first question. And the first question is, what made you want to help create a new health center in Hyde Park, and why is this important right now?
Yeah, so this group that came together are concerned citizens and residents of Hyde Park. We are one of the only neighborhoods in Boston that don't have a designated community health center. And with the closing of Kearney, which was like the closest facility to us, it definitely, I think, creates more of an urgent need for us to make sure that we get the community input that we need to make this happen. We are an anti-racist and justice center organization. We want to make sure that people of the global majority are represented, cared for, and that the care that they're receiving is equitable. As we know, and I'll share that there's some statistics that are not they're not that great for people of color, specifically for brown and black folks, right? Like we are the most marginalized, and on top of that, then these systems that are created are unjust already. We're not often heard in our care, so that's also why we want to bring this community center to Hyde Park to make sure that we have care within our communities that we can access, that there's no transportation hindrance, because as a Hyde Park resident, I often feel like the city of Boston forgets about Hyde Park.
It does. Like,
It
I don't.
does.
There's not a lot of like MBTA service. Like in Dorchester,
Mhm.
I feel like there's a bus stop every corner.
Right.
Hyde Park is kind of like you got to walk a couple of blocks to get there.
Right. And sometimes just like getting from like to get like, for example, from here to Brighton.
You know?
It is like it's gonna take you an hour and a half, right? It's
Mhm.
gonna, yeah. So I think just all of this is connected. And then on a personal front, I'm a mother, I'm a full spectrum doula, so I support birthing folks in the community to make sure that their needs are met and that they're getting equitable care. And Hyde Park has one of the highest instance of infant mortality in the city of Boston. Now, we are majority Black, majority Latinx. And so that actually aligns with the public health statistics that we have out there. Like compared to Rosnell, which is majority white, they have the lowest rate of infant mortality. So that's also why I'm passionate about this. I have a loss and bereavement organization in Hyde Park, the EMA project that supports folks who have experienced pregnancy and infant loss.
That's beautiful. Oh, no, this is an off-topic question. Well, kind of on topic. What made you become a doula? What made you want to become a doula?
Yeah, the birth and the death of my son is what made me become a doula because I am someone that I'm educated, I know the language, I can advocate for myself, and still I faced a system that wasn't listening to me as a Black
Mhm.
birthing person, as a Latina, as an Afro-Indigenous person. And so it was about a year after my son's passing that I just decided that I needed to do something with the grief that I was experiencing and that I didn't want other folks to experience a similar situation. But also, what really worried me were the migrant population who don't always know what's happening because there's a barrier in language.
Yeah. One, sorry for your loss, and you
Thank
are
you.
super strong, and I love what you're
Thank you.
doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like as a Black woman, I always think like, when I get older, like, you know, I want to have a child, but that part scares me. Like you think like, oh, I'm gonna have a good pregnancy. The doctors are gonna listen to me when I say it hurts and this and that. But yeah, I love that
Yeah.
what you're doing. But
Thank you. And I love that you're even thinking about it, because it's important now. You, as a young person, you're exposed to so many things. You know that there's doulas out there, right, that can support your journey. There's midwives. So there are definitely ways in which you don't have to birth within the hospital system to
mhm,
have like a good pregnancy and a good birth and a good outcome.
yes, I
Right.
love that. That's so beautiful. So I'm gonna pass the next question to Eliza.
Okay, so my question is, what does it mean when a place is called a medical desert?
Yeah, so a medical desert is when folks don't have access to health services within their community. So usually it's like limited to no access. So for example, we don't have like an emergency places here in Hyde Park that we can go to. It means a shortage of hospitals, of care providers, of professionals in the area, and also transportation can be part of what creates that desert because, as we mentioned, transportation within Hyde Park is very limited.
Okay, I have a follow-up question also.
Mhm.
How does that affect people living here?
Yeah, I think that it impacts them. Specifically, I would say the majority of the time when there is an emergency and they have to go, like the closest emergency room currently is Jamaica Plain. It's Faulkner Hospital.
Mhm,
But then, some folks don't want to go to Faulkner, right? Even though it's part of the Mass General Brigham system. So they'll go to Francis Street, which is the next closest, which is Brigham and Women, is where Beth Israel is. So it can impact us in terms of the immediate care that we need can be limited because of the distance that it can take us to an emergency provider.
mhm.
Right.
I also have another off-topic question. Why did they get rid of Carney Hospital?
It's I will say that this is my own personal opinion, and not
Mhm,
probably not, I don't want to say that it's reflective of the group that I'm representing tonight. But I always look at where these hospitals closed and who were they serving,
yeah.
right? So for me, I feel like talking about what is unjust within the medical system, what are the barriers to access for folks, which race can be one of them, right? This also was a hospital that was bought out by an investor group. So this is what they do. They buy these. properties, these systems, and sometimes they don't care for them in a equitable, financially sustainable way.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't feel like anything in the United States is unintentional when it comes to brown and black folks. So I want to name that. For me, it just it's like a continued system issue in terms of access.
I also have another question.
I
so
love all the else. I really tried to be ready too, but y'all are throwing some off-topic questions here. I like it though.
Yes.
I like it.
but this one is a little bit on the topic. But there's this women hospital, I think called like the Berkham's Women Hospital. Um, do you trust that hospital at all? Like, would you recommend it for other women?
Are you talking about Brigham and Women's?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that folks just need to be really informed about where they go. Sometimes I would say that we don't always know what questions to ask, right? So if I was talking to a friend or a family member, and let's say they were pregnant, the first thing I would say to them is like, ask them what their cesarean rate is as a doctor,
Right.
right? What is the percentage of cesarean births that are happening? Because sometimes when you enter these medical systems, you're kind of placed in this queue, right? And it almost feels like, oh, you just have to move along. Like it doesn't matter if your body is ready to birth or not. We're
Mhm.
going to move you along in this system that we've created because we need your bed, right? There's another patient that's going to take that bed the minute that you're out of it. So that would be one of them. um, I would also make sure, and this doesn't mean that you won't experience harm, but like I'm very intentional with the care that I receive, and I make sure that I have doctors of color now, just because I do feel more heard in my care and I feel more seen in my care.
Right.
Do I personally trust it? I mean, it is, I'll tell you, it's the hospital that most of my care is rendered. And that's because it's like going back to what we have access to, right?
Right.
Ultimately, what do I have access to? This is the closest hospital system. It is the largest hospital system here. And so I'm very intentional about choosing the providers. I don't necessarily trust any system, right? Because it wasn't created for us. So it's actually doing what it's meant to be doing. So it's just about educating yourself about what kind of provider you want to have. Will they really listen to you? And to remember that you have choices. I think people forget that they have a choice in their care and that they have a choice in requesting a second opinion. So if you are with a doctor that's not listening to you, that's writing you off, right? That you may be asking for certain things or certain symptoms may be coming up for you and you're not getting any answers, that you actually have the autonomy and the choice to go somewhere else and get a second opinion. And I recommend, especially when you're having like a serious medical incident, to always get a second opinion. And that's because these are still human beings that can make mistakes, right? Like you and I make mistakes, right? So it's, we can't place doctors, nurses, medical professors, professionals, like on the standard that mistakes don't happen. They do in fact happen, and they often happen with brown and black folks.
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna pass the next question to Jasmine.
Thank you. All right. How how can young people like us get involved in this project or help support it? And what are your biggest challenges?
So the first thing to do is to just reach out to one of the community members. So it could be me, it could be Marcia. There's so many wonderful folks who are doing a lot of work. I'm one of the new kids on the block when it comes to the steering committee. I've been on it since last year, but there are folks that have been moving forward these efforts for a couple years now. And so reaching out to us, getting involved in our health summit. We have a health summit coming up on March 22nd. Helping us to get the word out that this is happening, because a lot of residents don't even know. We have one of the lowest returns on survey information from the city of Boston. I think that changed a little bit the past few months, because we were pushing out the survey from the Boston Public Health Commission. But yeah, making sure that like your elders know, especially if they speak a different language. And most of our materials, when we do put it out, they're done in Spanish, they're done in Haitian Creole, and we're always looking for folks who have language skills that can also help and support us in making sure that we reach those communities.
Okay. Okay. What is your biggest challenges doing this work?
Funding,
Yeah.
getting funding, I think that it's really difficult. There are so many competing priorities, right? We're in a really hard political climate right now also, and so government funding is being cut. So for me, it's like not relying on government funds, like making sure that we have mutual aid within our communities, that we are creating ways in which we can support each other. But funding would definitely be one of them. We do have some support from city council, Enrique Pepe. Prior to him, Ricardo Arroyo was very involved with this effort. And I know that there are other esteemed members of the city council that would support this. It's not enough to have their word, right? Like we actually need the funding. And how do we get that? How do we make it sustainable? And how do we create access within our communities? I really believe that this wouldn't be a project that would displace people, that actually would bring jobs to Hyde Park, not and it would bring connection, and it would bring needed health services.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That answers my question perfectly. All right, so Elijah, you can take the next question.
Of course. New projects makes it harder for long-term residents to stay in their neighborhoods. How how would this help with pushing people out? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those projects that would actually bring more life into the community, like for existing residents, because they would have more equitable access to care. They would be, I believe they would be well taken care of, and it's going to also create jobs within the community. It would give people time back, travel time between all these systems that they're currently navigating that may be far away from Hyde Park. So I really believe in this project, and I don't believe that it would cause any displacement here. And I know that part of the committee had even looked at how to use existing buildings within Hyde Park so that, again, we're not, taking up space somewhere else. I don't know, whether that will be feasible in the future, but it is something that has been looked at.
Okay. And were there like any project that did push out any residents, not in like Hyde Park, or was there any like project that pushed out residents, and are y'all, or what steps are you taking to avoid that?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any projects that have pushed out residents that were not like real estate development,
Mm.
honestly, that is just far out of the reach of our residents and their medium income.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when I see it the most often is with housing and gentrification, right? That then
Mhm.
these high rises go up or these apartment buildings go up, and the rent is not accessible to the folks that already live in the neighborhood. I wouldn't say that I've necessarily seen that so much with a community health center or healthcare facility.
Okay. That's great. All right. So this is the final question. What is the next big step for the health center, and when do you think it will open, and how can we, the community, stay updated?
Yeah, so you can stay updated by following us on social media. I know that we are making updates currently to our social media so that it is more up to date. And then the best way to get involved is to come to the Health Summit on March 22nd, because you'll get to meet most of the members there. You'll get to have access to folks that also believe in this project. We have Michael Curry who will be speaking. Um, and other members, Enrique Pepeng from the city city council as well will be speaking. He's actually the city councilor for Hyde Park. So that's the best way to get involved right now, to really come meet face to face so we can talk to you about the project.
Mhm.
It will be at the Pride in Hyde Park, which is our queer and LGBTQ plus housing development for seniors, which was the first in the city. Really exciting, and it's a beautiful building that houses many colorful people who really want to do well in this community and create space for equitable care and racial justice.
All right. That we will be tuned in, and I hope everyone watching is tuned in as well.
I hope so too.
Elijah, do you have any other questions?
um
Because I know we have a lot of I've talked to.
yeah, let me think of a question. Are you fluent in Spanish?
I am fluent in Spanish.
I love that.
Love
Yeah,
that
it's
too.
really important to me to still speak it's my mother tongue. It was the first language that I spoke. And, most of my elders don't speak English. So it is important for me to keep up with my language. And I encourage, you as a youth, other youth members to make sure that they're also keeping up with the language and that they are building the skills, because it really does and can support your growth as you grow into whatever career it is that you choose to do. It is always beneficial to speak, I would say, multiple language, not even just being bilingual. There was a time I was a lot better at Portuguese, but
I'm currently learning that now. I like
oh, nice. Yeah, Portuguese
learned
is a beautiful
Spanish. I took
language.
Spanish for 5 years, and I'm like, okay, I can understand it. Me
Yeah,
speaking it, it sounds little, little rocky,
I
but
hear you.
but I'm learning how to speak Portuguese.
I also have
Slowly
another
but surely.
question. Um, were you born in the US?
I am a reverse immigrant, is what I call it, because I was born here in Boston, but I actually migrated to the Dominican Republic when I was younger. So I lived there for 8 years, and then I came back to Boston when I was 10 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I do have the pleasure of knowing what it is to live on that beautiful island.
If you would like, if you're okay with talking about it, what
Mhm.
do you think about the issues that are going on, like surrounding immigration and all of that with the government?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been going on, right? But I think that now, like, folks have been emboldened
Mhm.
by the current sitting person in the White House.
Yeah.
And on a personal level, it definitely strikes a chord for me. And I'm an advocate. So I'm a maternal newborn advocate for also for a nonprofit in Boston. And I support a lot of immigrants who are currently so fearful, so scared to even leave their home because of what is happening and the ICE raids and things like that. And I know personally folks that have been impacted, that have been taken into ICE custody with no warrant, with little information, where for me, it feels like kidnapping, because when you take someone away from their families and you don't provide any information, to me, seems logical that should be against the law, but I don't think that laws really matter right now, is what it feels like to me. It does scare me for folks that are out there who are undocumented, and for me, no human being is illegal. This land was taken from indigenous folks.
Mhm.
This is unceded native land. And so to have folks who are now coming in to dictate who is legal and who is not, um, it hurts my heart, to put it like plainly. And And I hope that, the other day I was out in Mattapan Square, like flyering with Know Your Rights flyers. And so like I would encourage folks, even if you can't get out and protest, right? If you can't be out in public, you're afraid for your well-being, that there are still ways that you can help. You can help by joining the blackout on February 28th and only buying
Mhm.
from black and brown businesses, not buying from major retailers, making sure you're using cash to buy your products, and really divesting from purchasing from Amazon is like a big thing, because these folks are really holding 1% of the wealth, which they could eradicate homelessness. They could eradicate food insecurity for so many people and still be billionaires, and they choose not to. And so always come back to like community takes care of each other, and that's what this time is calling for us to organize, to get together, to create these mutual aid communities for each other, to make sure that we're checking in on our migrant neighbors, to make sure that they have access to what they need. Maybe they're afraid to leave their home. So, how can you support them in getting the things that they need? But yeah, these are scary times, and I don't want to sugarcoat that. And I pray for anyone that may be scared right now and may be experiencing fear, and know that there are community organizations that are there to support you as well.
Yeah, you and I love that you don't sugarcoat it because we keep it real on here, and that's what people need to hear. And I feel like a lot now that we have that new, the thing in office right now, a lot of like like everything's being censored. They don't want you to say certain things. They'll take down if it's not what they think is right. They'll take it down, and I've been seeing that on social media. So just like protesting the blackouts,
Mhm.
knowing your rights, and just putting yourself out there and helping others is what we need in the community right now. And I feel like what you're doing is just awesome.
Thank you. And I just want to shout out Mira Coalition, because they're one of the migrant and refugee organizations here in Boston that are doing a lot of Know Your Rights training. They have a lot of fact sheets. So it was their like Know Your Rights flyer that I printed out, and I just started giving them out in small businesses in Mattapan Square, because as we know, like Mattapan has a high density of like Haitian immigrants in particular. But we have more than just Haitian immigrants in this neighborhood. And so I wanted to do my part in making sure that folks had access to the information that they need, should they need it.
And you're doing that, doing just that. We have a question from a viewer. How does the ICE actions affect the health of immigrants?
Yeah, I've seen a direct impact on the folks that I serve that are undocumented, because they're afraid to now share, right, what's going on. Like my whole role is to support them and to get them resources. They're afraid of going to government agencies to get aid. They're afraid of that they'll be reported. They're afraid that their children will be taken from them, or worse, that they will be taken from their children. So it definitely has an impact. It makes people shy away from institutions and getting the care that they need, so that eventually is going to have an impact on their health overall if they're avoiding care.
All right. Well, that was, I think, final question. I think. All right. But y'all, whoever's watching, please go to the Health Summit March 22nd, right?
March 22nd at the
All
Pride
right.
in Hyde Park.
At the Pride in Hyde Park. Be there or be square. Okay. And thank you all for watching. Please give another round of applause. If you're here or at home, give a round of applause for Miss Jessica Paulino.
Thank you, and thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly.
Oh, yes. I love that I am. Wait, how do people pronounce it?
Well, even I sometimes will say like Paulino, but it's Paulino.
You know, I try. I try.
Thank
But
you.
yes, thank you for coming. And
Thank you
bye,
for
everyone
inviting
at
me.
home. And follow all of us. Follow Chop It Up on social media at the Chop It Up Pod. Miss Paulina, do you have a social media?
I do have social media. You can find me at Golden Flor Wellness on Instagram and Facebook. It's Flor, Flor. It's just flower in Spanish. I like the Spanglish, so that's my business name. I run a wellness company as well here in Hyde Park, and offer somatic healing, Reiki, sound healing, and I host healing circles.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I might come. I need to go there. All right. But yes, y'all follow her on all well, her social medias and our social medias. And thank you everyone for watching and stay blessed up. Good night.